Well, hello to all my online friends. I just wanted to put out this short little video. It probably won't wind up being short, but this month marks our 1-year anniversary doing a daily devotion spot on the local WEEK TV here in Peoria, I think Bloomington Normal area. It airs at, I think, 4:27 a.m. before the morning news. And every time I put these videos together, I love the little theme that I came up with last year, but I just thought it needed a little bit reworked, maybe just to give it a little new energy, and just updated a couple of the cues in the video for starting this week. So if maybe you noticed this morning, there was a new theme song, there's a new intro screen and a new ending screen. But anyway, I thought I'd go through the theme song since it's something here I could kind of just talk about. It's pretty simple and it's pretty short, so let's get into it. But first, I'm gonna cut out and I'm gonna let him out for a second because he obviously wants to go outside, and this is what he does. You know, when I'm here in the studio, if I have the door to the house open, you know, he'll walk in here and he basically is telling me I gotta go. So anyway, I'm gonna cut. We're gonna let him out, and then I'll be back with you guys in a second. I think the first theme song was just named "Living the Good Life" because that's what the segment is called, and you can find that I think on Spotify and iTunes. I've got that under Timothy C. Lee. You can find that on there, and it's 1 minute and 15 seconds because that's how long our spot is. Exactly 1 minute and 15 seconds. So this new theme song, guess how long it is? 1 minute and 15 seconds. And so. Let's just dive in. The funny thing about this theme song is there's no Hammond B3 organ on it, and I think I just decided it was sounding pretty good without it, and being that it's kind of just background music, the less layers probably would be best. And even the mix that I'm probably going to show you guys is not the actual mix that's on the TV spot, because I did have to pull a few instruments out, and I'll tell you what those are. Just because as I was playing it with Pastor Jason talking on it, it just seemed like it was distracting a little bit. So I took some of the elements out so that as it plays behind him talking, that it doesn't sort of get in the way. So I'm going to jump over here to my computer, and first I'm going to play the whole thing through, and then we're not going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it. So here we go. All right, so there it was, the 1 minute and 15 seconds. And usually, if those of you that haven't seen the segment, I invite you to either join our, you don't have to join, but on our church's Facebook page, which I believe is my Crossroads Church. I'm not sure, but I'll put that link in the description because I probably should know that, but I don't. But anyway, you can see it on Facebook or our YouTube channel. If you search Crossroads Global Methodist Church, you will see our YouTube page, and they're up on there daily as well. Okay, so that out of the way. Let's talk about this. So I mixed this a little bit differently than I normally mix it. So I'm going to turn off all the automation. And I'm old school. I don't have a lot of these keystrokes that that a lot of people will have all these fancy keystrokes. So anyhow, to do all these fancy things. So anyway, we're going to start off because what I did was I mocked up a basic drum track. And that's usually the first instrument that I put down as the drums. And with a metronome. And here's the metronome. So I played like a little version on the piano, which I've deleted that since. It's just a temporary thing so that I could play the drums along with. And so let's play a little bit of these drums. And so it's a pretty simple just pattern. I did hit every drum, so that's in there. So, which I don't always do. So there are the 5 toms. There's a kick, snare, hats. But I'm going to mute some of this room sound stuff and these extra mics. And I'm going to take, I do have a trigger on the snare to supplement some of the sounds. But so we're going to hear this pretty. So these are all the close mics. Now you'll see there's nothing wrong with that, but it is kind of dry and not big sounding. And I was kind of just going for that just classic beat, I don't know what you call it. There's probably a name for it, but just a solid pop rock beat. With a driving kind of 8th note pulse in the basses and the guitars, and an A and sort of a B section. So, and let's see, and I'll link. I've got this. I don't know if you guys can see it. The Good Life. So I got this little chart that I made. So I can link that and put that in the comments too if anybody's interested in that, to take a look at that. But again, we got raw drums. And the verb that was on those toms is just verb that I have on that subgroup. But I'm going to add what we call the junk mic. Now, some people call it a knee mic. Some people call it a junk mic. There's all kinds of names for it, but ultimately, it's a microphone that is placed, if you think of it, kind of over the bass drum as you're sitting and playing. It's facing the drummer, pointed at his knee that's on the kick pedal, or hence why some people call it the junk mic. But it's pointed kind of just above the kick drum, next to the snare. And I heavily compress this, and we can listen to just this mic, and you can hear what it sounds like. So heavily compressed, it kind of brings out the ringiness of the snare drum, and a little bit of ringy on the kick drum. And if I was to play the toms, you'd hear it. But if we mix that in with the really dry stuff, you'll see it starts to add a little bit of life. Now, that's not the only extra mic we're going to add. I've got 2 room mics. I've got a pair of room mics that are, my drum room isn't that big, so I use this plug-in. I'll pull it up here. This is called the Stone Room, and as you can see, we could close these curtains in the back. We can open the curtains, but it's modeled on the room that Phil Collins recorded his drums in at the studio that Genesis owns in Surrey, England. And from what I understand, the studio no longer exists as a studio. They've pulled all the gear out, and I'm not really quite sure what they're doing with the space. I think Tony Banks is using it for something. I'm not sure. But anyway, they modeled this room after, took some impulses and stuff of his room. And you can see even the picture's got a sort of Phil Collins-ish drum set in the space. But let's listen to, let me bypass it. I'm getting off track here. There's so much stuff to talk about. And I said this is going to be a short video, but we're probably going to be like an hour or something like that, me just rambling on. But so here's my room mics, and they're probably about 12 feet in front of the kit, kind of in opposite corners of the room. Now that's completely dry. There's no EQ. There's nothing on those. That's just those microphones. Now, I will say that it is going through my drum bus processing on all of my drums. So although there's no EQ on those individual channels, you can see right here, I've got a couple things on my drum bus. So it's still kind of going through a little bit of EQ and compression and stuff. But anyway, now if I add the room simulator to those room mics, this is what we get. So we take that room sound and we add it to our dry drums, and we start to get more of what I call like what drums really sound like. Because, you know, with close mics, I mean, your ear is never really that close to a drum, and it shouldn't be. You will definitely lose your hearing. So here we go. Here's with the room mics. So that sounds more like real drums, you know. And then I've got this wonderful, the unique space that I've got, and I think I've showed it in an earlier video, but I probably need to do an updated of a little studio tour, because things have much simplified here and changed since I first kind of moved into the space. So, but this is my shower mic. It's a tiled shower. Again, the Phil Collins room sound is a completely tiled room that gives it that really live, you know, they call it the stone room. It's got stone, tiled floor, stone all the way around, very reverberant. But my shower is kind of the same way. So let's listen to that shower mic. And again, this is going to be heavily compressed, and you'll see what this sounds like. So, you know, that doesn't have a lot of attack. It just kind of, it's a little bit washy. But, you know, again, you add it with those close mics and you start to get a more lively drum sound. So let's add a little bit of that into our drum sound. Let's see what else I got. I know I've got some percussion, tambourine. So the beginning of this starts off, and I've got it starts off with a guitar intro with a little drum fill, and then I've got sort of like this shrooping, is that a word? Or sweeping sound to kind of hit the first downbeat. So here are those elements. And that just kind of gives it this you know, it kind of like suction into the verse and then like it hits. I don't know. I kind of like these elements when I can use them. So we start off with. And then the next thing I would have done was, again, I had like a temp piano part. So I put the bass line in, which is a simple driving eighth note bass. And this particular bass is from Kontakt. It's called the Sun bass. But what I like about it, and if I, you know, all these tracks are burned in. So I could pull up the virtual instruments and show you guys. But you can change the level of muting on the strings. And so the problem with a lot of sampled basses is you start to do like that driving eighth note thing, and it's more of a sustained bass as opposed to a muted bass. So the muted bass to me just works better, you know, the bump, 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 bump. Otherwise, you know, it doesn't sound real. Not that this stuff sounds real, but I try to go for a more real approach with these instruments, even the guitars, even though all these guitars are just virtual instruments that I played on the keyboard. So here we go. But here's the bass. So when it gets to like the low B, actually, I don't think it's low B, like the D flat, that's where, I don't know. But with everything else going on, you really don't notice. But there's a register where that bass sounds best. And I probably went beyond where you know, you go to low E and probably you go down to D, it's okay. You start to hit that C sharp to the B. Because I think it was a 4-string bass that was sampled. So, you know, it doesn't have the low string, the B string, with really good samples. But anyway, that's the bass. And then, you know, you might be hearing some Genesis influence here. But when I get to the bridge, I pull in sort of the Moog Taurus bass pedals. And so here's that sample. And so that just adds just a beefier part for the little bridge section that I've got. And so the bass and the bass synth together sound like this. And then, you know, I would have added after the bass, I would have added this little pad that kind of goes through the whole song. And this is an interesting pad. I really don't like these sort of like 80s vibe kind of wavy pads. But I had this new library that kind of popped in for free. And I just was kind of going through some of the sounds, and I thought I'd try this. And I've kind of been regretting it, but it's tucked so low in the mix that you really don't notice. But it just needed some kind of pad because the guitars and everything going on just needed something to kind of like glue it together. So this is that pad. And actually putting a little verb on it and this Sound Toys plugin to thicken it up actually helped out a lot, because if I bypass the Sound Toys and the verb, you'll hear that the pad kind of, I don't know, it's not really in my wheelhouse. it kind of borderlines on that cheesy kind of sound. But you know, if you only have one cheesy thing, I guess it's okay. But someone could argue this whole track is cheesy. But and I'd love to have that conversation. But so I'm gonna play the pad, and then I'm gonna add the sound toys and the verb on, and you'll see how it kind of just thickens it up a bit. All right, so there's the pad. And so once we've kind of got, and that really, honestly, if I just had the drums, bass, and the pad, it could pretty much hold this whole track. And I'll play a little bit of it. Now that is a bed for like a voiceover or something. That would be plenty because there's not much going on. It has that like churning, and kind of what I wanted in this was so that there's like this churning motion, and that's that eighth note feel that kind of pushes throughout the whole minute and 15 seconds, so that kind of gets you going, creates a little bit of excitement, and even the tempo, you know. If this was something that like I would maybe develop into more of a song, I'd probably go a little bit faster tempo. But again, because somebody's speaking over this, I don't want it to be so fast that, you know, it's got to be that mid-range tempo that works for if somebody's going to talk really excitedly, or if maybe they want to talk at a little slower pace, that it doesn't feel like that the music absolutely doesn't fit the talking. So anyway, we've got drums, we've got bass, we got this pad. When I get to the bridge section, which is the change, I add the good old faithful CP70 electric piano in here, and that came from my Keyscape library. There's a couple different patches for that, but I basically used a dry one, and let's hear what that sounds like. And I just lied because there's delay that I burned into this. So I'm not quite sure what I ran it through, but again, I burned it in. So it's the Keyscape CP70 with a little bit of delay. I probably ran it through a couple Waves plugins. So. Okay, so if I play all that together. Okay, so I'm now kind of out of order because I know that the main guitar riff that I played in Kontakt, I had put that in before because some of this other sort of spice stuff at the end, definitely, you know, I didn't put it in first. I put the guitars in first. But we're going to go through all these synths first, and then we're going to get to the guitars. So right after we hit the bridge, we're going to go back into that that sort of opening chord progression. And I do the Old Faithful, just a high string. We're in the key of E flat, so just a high E flat in octaves string. And that sounds like this. And so anyway, that always works, and it adds a little bit of tension and excitement. And it's just tucked in there really low. So if I play it in sort of like with the other instruments. So it's just really low, but it again, it just adds so much, and I use that all the time when I'm making backing tracks for church, or in original stuff that I'm working on, when you sort of get to the end of the song or you get to the chorus and you just need another element to take the intensity up a little bit, it's those high strings and just holding it out. It's kind of the same thing on like a Hammond B3 when you just grab that high note and you just hold it out and you throw the Leslie on. It just adds just that much more energy. Okay, so let's get to these guitars. So this first guitar is the first one that you hear off the track. And if I turn it up, it sounds something like this. Okay, so now that's a I think it's one of the Kontakt libraries of, it's either the I think it's the Stratocaster or the Telecaster. I don't know. I think it's the Telecaster, but basically I recorded it dry. So you basically go into Kontakt, you're playing the software instrument, and it's got sort of like amp simulators and stuff built in, and I just bypass or clear all those out. Bypass, and so we've got this raw dry track coming from Kontakt, and here's what that sounds like. Pretty dull and so that's pretty dull and plain, but again, that's like if you were to take the signals directly out of a guitar, that's what you're going to get. And so really what makes a guitar is a guitar amp. So I'm using this UAD, this Friedman. I'm not really sure. I'm not a guitar player, but it's like a 40-watt kind of boutique amp. And we're going to engage this, and we get this sound. So that's a little bit more like a guitar. And then the last thing is I've got this, it's a Waves CLA guitar plugin. And basically I've got the edge delay, which famous by U2, the edge. So they call it the edge, but it's basically a dotted eighth note delay and a little bit of chorus and a shorter reverb on here. And then we get this. So that definitely now it gives some atmosphere. So even if we just take those elements, I'm going to mute these other guitars, but we start off the song and that guitar automatically gives you a mood. Now, there's nothing wrong with even just that. I mean, that in itself would be a nice little bed. But I did find when I kind of temporarily put Jason's voice over that that riff was a little bit much. It drew kind of more attention to the track. So what happens is on the automation on the mix, we start off with it really hot for that little intro. And then as soon as the drums, hit the downbeat of let's just say the verse, that I'll pull it down. But we've got a couple other guitar parts. We've got my favorite, just muted eighth notes. I think just about every song or every composition you write, some muted eighth notes in the right places, totally will make it happen. So here are those. So that definitely, it's just basically doubling the bass line. But again, it gives it that churning kind of motion, which like the undercurrent, right? So if we go back to this verse and I'm going to pull the main riff off, the main guitars off, and we're going to slowly pull in these sort of chugga, chugga, chugga muted guitar parts, and you'll see kind of the undercurrent, what's happening. So definitely, again, motion. And the next guitar, I don't play guitar, but I feel like I got a lot of guitars in this particular track. But inspiration strikes and you just start layering stuff. So we get to this bridge part, and it kind of, to me, needed a little something extra. And so here come the mummies. No, not here come the mummies. Here comes this sort of wah arpeggiated guitar part. And I put the SSL stereo imager on there just to kind of like widen it out again, because there's lots of stuff happening in this bridge, and I kind of just wanted that part to just kind of go left and right and leave a little room in the middle for other stuff. Speaking of synths, I didn't finish. We talked about that high string part in the bridge, but one of my favorite parts, and I call this the Foreigner synth. Like feels like the first time at the beginning, there's like this sort of like arpeggiated polysynth thing that kind of hangs over the top that gives it more energy. And that's exactly what I did in the bridge. I mean, you got to take what works and has worked historically in pop music, and you just take those elements and you use them, however you can. But here's the bridge with that Foreigner kind of patch. I didn't play it very cleanly, but again, over the top, you really can't tell. But that's what this sounds like, kind of going into the bridge. So we've got almost all the parts here. The only other thing is there's one more. I used a Kontakt. I think they call it Evolution Rock Guitar in Kontakt to play this ending sort of like tag on the guitar. I just needed a super heavy. And that virtual instrument's pretty good at doing it. So here's those last chords. So that gives the ending kind of like the oomph. And again, I use that sort of bass synth at the end that comes back. So the bass synth is only in the bridge, and then it comes back at the end to do the tag, and it kind of gives it a little bit of oomph on the end. So anyway, and then as far as the mix bus, I've just got this, the Waves SSL bus compressor. Mixing into that, and that's about all I can say for this song. Other than that, eventually this is going to be uploaded to Spotify and iTunes and stuff like that. So it's 1 minute and 15 seconds. So if you want to put it in your playlist, I greatly appreciate it to get some plays. And I know that I would probably need 18 million plays to make $1 off streaming, but it would just be nice that if a couple of you would give me a play. And you can find me at Timothy C. Lee on Spotify. I've got a few things up there. Anyway, thanks for watching this. I'm sorry that you can't get any of this time back, but that's what I thought I'd do. I thought I'd do this tonight. I don't do a lot of the talking head videos. I used to do a few more than I do. But again, there's people that really know how to explain this stuff. And I just kind of go by feel and what kind of inspires me. And anyhow, all I can say is thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And we'll catch you next time.